Have you ever looked in the mirror and noticed that your face seemed a little different? Maybe one side of your smile looked uneven, one eyelid drooped, or your expression just didn't look normal. What seems like a small change could actually be your brain's first warning sign of a stroke. The scariest part? Millions of people over 60 in the US overlook these small changes in their face every day. They assume it's just fatigue, poor sleep, or age. But in reality, these signs may last only a few minutes, and that short window could be the golden moment to stop a major stroke. According to the American Stroke Association, up to 80% of strokes show clear changes in the face within the first 10 minutes. That means simply watching the face closely can reveal the problem before the brain suffers permanent damage. Imagine this. Mr. Thomas, 68, is chatting with his wife. He's speaking clearly, answering normally. But when she looks closely, she notices his smile is slightly crooked, one cheek sagging a bit. Thomas insists, "I'm fine, nothing's wrong." A few hours later, he suffers a full stroke and loses the ability to speak forever. Stories like this are not rare. The reason many people are caught off guard is because an early stroke doesn't cause pain, doesn't make you collapse immediately. The person can still walk, talk, even feel, "I'm okay." That silence makes them ignore the most valuable signal, small changes in the face.
I want you to remember this. The face is a mirror of brain health. A crooked smile, a drooping eyelid, or a forehead that doesn't wrinkle evenly when you frown, any of these could be your brain's silent cry for help. The problem is, too many people don't recognize it or choose to wait. They blame it on age, a bad night's sleep, or even lying on one side while sleeping. But while they delay, millions of brain cells are dying every minute. This video will help you change that. I'll show you the 4 clearest facial signs that can warn of a stroke. I'll explain why the face often changes first, why it shouldn't be confused with Bell's palsy, and why you should never wait until an arm weakens or speech disappears before taking action. The real question is not, am I having a stroke, but am I sharp enough to notice when my face, or my loved one's face, is crying out for help before it's too late? Don't let an unusual facial expression go unnoticed, because by paying attention, you could save yourself or someone you love. When people think of stroke, they often imagine weak arms or legs, slurred speech, or being unable to walk. But in reality, the face is often the very first place to send a warning. Our brain has a command center that controls every movement, walking, gripping, chewing, speaking. And right near the brain's surface lies a special area that manages the facial muscles, from smiling and frowning to blinking. This area is supplied by the middle cerebral artery, which also happens to be the artery most often blocked during strokes. What does that mean? When blood can't reach this area, the signals from the brain to the facial muscles are cut off immediately. Because the pathway from the brain to the face is short and has no backup routes, changes in the face can appear within minutes. In contrast, the arms and legs have multiple nerve pathways, so their symptoms often take longer to show. That's why a crooked smile, a drooping eyelid, or a forehead that doesn't wrinkle evenly when you frown can be the very first signs of stroke, sometimes appearing within just 3 to 5 minutes after a vessel is blocked. This is critical because the face is the brain's red warning light. You don't need a blood pressure monitor or medical equipment, just a mirror or a close look at your loved one. Subtle changes in the face are the brain's way of saying something is wrong, and that's why recognizing these facial signs can save a life. Just 5 seconds of observation may be all it takes to see that the brain is in danger. In the next part, we'll look at sign number 1, the uneven smile, one of the clearest and easiest changes to recognize.
A normal smile lifts both corners of the mouth evenly, creating balance and a natural expression. But when a stroke begins, that symmetry can disappear in just seconds. One corner of the mouth won't lift, and the smile suddenly looks crooked. What's happening? Each side of the brain controls the facial muscles on the opposite side. When a blood vessel in the brain is blocked, that area no longer gets enough blood and oxygen to send signals to the muscles of the face. The result? One cheek, lip, or corner of the mouth becomes weak and fails to rise like the other side. What's striking is that the person doesn't feel pain or discomfort. They can still talk, even insist, "I'm fine," while their face is telling an entirely different story. That's why observing with your own eyes, especially when they smile, becomes such an important way to spot danger. Don't confuse a stroke-related uneven smile with other minor issues. A crooked smile from dentures or habit is usually obvious, long-lasting, and doesn't appear suddenly. But an uneven smile caused by stroke appears out of nowhere, within minutes, and often comes with other signs like slurred speech, a drooping eyelid, or weakness on one side of the body. Medical data shows that more than 60% of stroke patients are brought to emergency care because a family member first noticed an uneven smile. That means simply paying attention to a smile could be the act that saves a life. So next time you look in the mirror or see a loved one smile, take an extra 5 seconds.
If the smile is uneven, if one corner of the mouth droops, don't wait. That could be your brain's silent cry for help. It's not just your smile. Your eyes and cheeks can also send early warnings when the brain is in trouble. A healthy face is always balanced. Eyes open evenly, cheeks symmetrical, and an overall look of vitality. But when one eyelid suddenly droops, or one cheek softens and sags as if it's lost its strength, that's not just age or a rough night's sleep. It could be an urgent signal of an impending stroke. When blood flow to the brain is interrupted, the area that controls facial muscles no longer gets enough oxygen and nutrients. Signals from the brain to the muscles around the eyes and cheeks suddenly stop. Within just minutes, one side of the face grows weaker and no longer moves in sync with the other. The result? One eyelid looks heavy, unable to open fully. One cheek droops and loses vitality, and the entire face becomes visibly unbalanced. The danger is that this symptom usually causes no pain. The person stays alert, keeps talking, even insists, "I'm fine." That's why so many brush it off, thinking, "I must just be tired," or "I didn't sleep well, my face looks dull this morning," or "I'm older now, wrinkles and sagging are normal." But the truth is different. Medical data shows that up to 80% of stroke patients display changes in the cheeks and eyelids within the first 15 minutes.
These changes aren't from aging or wrinkles. They happen because the brain has stopped sending signals. And once the brain speaks up, every passing minute becomes critical. There's a simple test you can try. Look straight into a mirror or ask a loved one to observe. If one eyelid doesn't open as wide as the other, or if one cheek looks softer and droopier, treat it as a red warning sign. Never dismiss it as something minor. A drooping eyelid or a sagging cheek could be your brain's silent cry for help, signaling that its lifeline of blood is being cut off. Acting immediately in that moment could preserve your smile, your voice, and the independence you've worked so hard to protect. Sign number 3, trouble closing the mouth when pursing lips or speaking. One simple but very useful way to detect stroke early is by watching how someone purses their lips or pronounces basic words. When the brain loses its ability to send signals to the mouth muscles, the person will struggle to close their lips tightly, blow air, or speak clearly. Try a quick test. Ask the person you suspect may be having a stroke to press their lips together firmly or blow air as if whistling.
If one side of the mouth cannot close properly, or if air leaks out from one corner, that's a warning sign. This happens because the muscles around the lips, cheeks, and tongue need precise coordination to purse, blow, and form words. When the brain isn't getting enough blood, the signals to these muscles are disrupted, making it impossible to fully control one side of the mouth. You may also notice this when they try to say simple words like pa or ba. Instead of sounding clear, the words come out distorted, slurred, or unusually slow. Listeners might mistake this for fatigue, drowsiness, or even sounding a little drunk, when in fact, it's the brain crying out for help. The important point is that the patient often doesn't recognize anything wrong in their own speech. They believe they're speaking normally. That's why the role of loved ones, observing carefully and listening closely, is so critical. According to the American Stroke Association, speech difficulty and loss of control over the lips and mouth occur in nearly 40% of early stroke cases. This is why a simple test, pursing the lips or blowing air, can literally save a life. If you or a loved one suddenly cannot close the lips firmly, start slurring words, or sound unusual, don't wait. It's not just fatigue or lack of sleep. It could be your brain's urgent warning. And sometimes the most important clue shows up in the place people notice least, the forehead. A subtle but highly reliable sign of stroke is the inability to raise both eyebrows evenly or wrinkle the forehead in sync. This detail is often overlooked because most people focus on the smile or speech rather than the forehead. But in reality, the forehead can be the brain's early warning light. You can do a quick test. Ask the person to lift their eyebrows or try to wrinkle their forehead. If only one side shows creases while the other side stays flat and motionless, it means the brain is no longer sending equal signals to the facial muscles. This happens because the forehead muscles are controlled directly by very short nerve pathways from the brain. When a vessel is blocked, the signal fails to arrive, leaving half the forehead frozen, unable to wrinkle or lift. Unlike peripheral nerve problems, such as Bell's palsy, where the entire side of the face, forehead, cheek, eye, and mouth weakens together, stroke often affects the lower part of the face more noticeably, but the forehead may still reveal a striking asymmetry. That's the key clue doctors use to tell the difference. According to emergency physicians in the U.S., detecting changes in the forehead, eyes, and mouth within the first few minutes can directly determine a patient's chance of recovery. A delay of just 15 minutes can mean millions of brain cells lost forever. So if you see a face with a crooked smile, a drooping eyelid, and an uneven forehead that won't wrinkle, don't hesitate. That's not fatigue or age. It's an urgent cry for help from the brain. There is, however, another condition that can cause similar changes in the face, often leading people to mistake it for stroke: facial nerve paralysis, commonly known as Bell's palsy. One of the reasons so many people miss the warning signs of stroke in the face is because they can be easily confused with Bell's palsy. While the two conditions share similarities, there are also crucial differences you must know so you don't hesitate when it's time to act. The similarities: both can cause one side of the face to weaken, leading to a crooked smile and difficulty closing the eyelid. The person may struggle with speaking, drinking, or eating. To an observer, the face looks visibly uneven. The differences: number 1, stroke appears very suddenly within minutes. It often affects the lower half of the face more prominently, mouth, cheek, while part of the forehead may still move. Stroke is usually accompanied by other symptoms, such as slurred speech, weakness in the arms or legs, imbalance or confusion. Stroke is a medical emergency. Without immediate action, it can cause permanent brain damage or death. Number 2, Bell's palsy develops gradually, usually over several hours to a day or two. It weakens the entire side of the face, from the forehead and eye to the cheek and mouth. It rarely comes with other body symptoms and is usually limited to the face. Most cases are benign and recover within weeks to months, and it seldom threatens life.
Doctors advise, if you're not sure, always treat it as a stroke. That means calling 911 immediately. Waiting a few hours to see if it's just Bell's palsy could cost you the golden opportunity to save the brain. Remember, Bell's palsy can heal over time, but stroke does not. Once brain cells die, they never come back. You may have heard of stroke before, but these numbers show just how urgent it really is. In the U.S., according to the CDC, Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, nearly 800,000 new strokes occur each year. About 610,000 are first-time strokes, the rest are recurrent. Of these, 80% show facial changes in the first minutes. A study published in Stroke by the American Heart Association found that up to 72% of patients displayed facial symptoms within just the first 15 minutes. This means the face is often the fastest warning, faster than the arms, legs, or even speech. Yet sadly, 1 in 3 adults over 60 does not realize that a crooked smile, drooping eyelid, or unusual speech are signs of stroke. And according to a survey by the National Institute of Neurological Disorders and Stroke, nearly 30% of older adults think these small facial changes are just due to fatigue or aging, missing the golden window for treatment.
Keep in mind, with every minute without treatment, the brain loses 1.9 million neurons, never to regenerate. If treated within the first 3 hours, the golden window, the chance of near complete recovery is very high. But if delayed beyond 5 hours, the chance of recovery drops below 20%. In other words, just a few minutes of hesitation can turn a healthy, independent life into one of permanent dependence. Stroke does not wait. It does not give notice. And it doesn't care if you're busy or if you think you're just tired. Your face, your smile, your eyes, your forehead is the mirror of your brain. The moment you notice a change, you hold the chance to protect your future. So why, despite all the clear data, do so many people still miss the golden opportunity? The answer lies in the habits and thought patterns that often come with aging. 1. Because they feel fine. Many people believe that if they can still talk and walk, it can't be a stroke. But the truth is, the brain may already be starved of blood while you still feel normal. That false sense of, "I'm fine," is dangerous because stroke often advances silently before it strikes hard. 2. Not wanting to bother family or neighbors. Seniors often worry about being a burden. So even when they notice a crooked smile or drooping eyelid, they choose to wait and see. But stroke does not wait.
A 911 call is not an inconvenience. It's protection for yourself and your loved ones from lifelong loss. 3. Thinking a stroke must be painful to be serious. Many assume that without a severe headache, it's not a stroke. In reality, 65% of ischemic strokes cause no pain at all. They arrive quietly, leaving only a crooked smile or a slurred speech, and that's already a red alarm. 4. Not recognizing their own facial changes. There's a condition called anosognosia, where brain damage prevents the person from noticing their own symptoms. They feel normal, even when their face is clearly changed. That's why family and friends play the role of a living mirror to spot warning signs early. 5. Blaming age or fatigue. One cheek feels heavy? Must be from sleeping on one side. Speech sounds a little slurred? Probably just a dry throat. These reasonable explanations make people ignore the brain's signals. But unlike fatigue, stroke symptoms come suddenly and often vanish quickly, never to be dismissed. 6. Living alone with no one to observe. According to the Pew Research Center, nearly 27% of Americans over 60 live alone. This raises the risk of missing signs, since it's hard to notice your own facial changes. Sometimes all it takes is one observant glance from someone else to save a life. 7.
The habit of enduring and delaying. Generations over 60 grew up toughing it out rather than running to the doctor. They tell themselves, rest and I'll feel better, or tomorrow it will be fine. But with stroke, every minute of delay kills millions of brain cells. The same resilience that served well in life can become a dangerous trap in health. 8. Not knowing the early signs. A CDC survey shows that 1 in 3 adults over 60 don't know that a crooked smile or drooping eyelid can be signs of stroke. If they don't know, they won't suspect. If they don't suspect, they won't act. Lack of knowledge is one of the biggest reasons strokes go untreated. 9. Misdiagnosing themselves. Many say, it must be low blood pressure, just a cold, or I didn't sleep enough. Some even search Google instead of calling 911. But while they search for answers, the brain is already suffering permanent damage. The golden rule: if in doubt, assume it's a stroke and call 911. 10. Believing it could never happen to them. Some think, I exercise, I eat well, my blood pressure is fine, I won't get a stroke. But stroke doesn't choose the weak or the strong. It can happen to anyone, anytime. The belief that it won't happen to me has cost many their only chance at survival. Each of these reasons may sound reasonable at the moment, but together they explain why thousands of Americans over 60 lose the ability to speak, smile, or live independently.
Recognizing these mental traps is the first step to taking action in time. Now that you know the facial signs, the more important question is, what should you do the moment they appear? Don't hesitate. Don't wait another minute. Call 911 immediately. When it comes to strokes, time is life. Doctors call this the golden window. If treatment begins within the first 3 hours, the chances of near full recovery are very high. Remember these 3 golden rules. See the signs, call right away. Even a crooked smile, drooping eyelid, or uneven forehead is enough to dial 911. 2. Do not drive yourself. Call an ambulance. On the way, the medical team can already begin treatment. 3. Don't worry about bothering anyone, because just a few minutes of quick action can save you from a lifetime of dependence. If treated in time, 70% of patients can return to normal life. But if delayed, even survivors are often left with severe disabilities, speech problems, paralysis, memory loss. Ask yourself, are you willing to trade a lifetime of independence and freedom for just a few minutes of hesitation? We've just gone through the earliest facial signs of stroke, from a crooked smile, a drooping eyelid, and difficulty closing the mouth, to an uneven forehead. You now know why the face is often the very first place to show warning signals, how to tell the difference from Bell's palsy, and the 10 reasons why so many people over 60 miss their golden opportunity. What I want you to remember is this: even the smallest change in your face is never small. It could be the first and only alarm that gives you the chance to stop a stroke from stealing your ability to speak, smile, walk, or live freely. If you notice something unusual, don't wait. Don't guess. Don't search Google. Call 911 immediately. You're not bothering anyone. You're protecting yourself and your family. Share this video with your friends, neighbors, or loved ones, especially those over 60. One share today could save a life tomorrow. And if you found this message helpful, hit like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell. Let's build a community of older adults who are informed, healthy, and independent. Because by paying attention to a single smile, a glance, or a small facial change, you may be protecting an entire lifetime.